I've always liked incensey perfumes, smoky perfumes. They're very mysterious. They're very kind of, they're good for the evening, good for cold weather. And a lot of perfumes these days are mostly pretty light, pretty sweet, fruity, floral. So you really have to go out looking for some of the more incensey, smoky perfumes. But they were much more popular a few decades ago in the past, especially in the 1920s and some in the 80s. So I'll go over some of my favorite kind of incensey perfumes that I enjoy. One of which so far is the most smoky, amazing perfume I've discovered so far. Shalimar. Shalimar is unique. It came out in 1925 from the brand Guerlain, French brand, and they were mainly aiming to capture ancient India, the exotic nature of incense, spices, all the stuff that ancient India had, the Far East. And they really managed to do that, especially with the Eau de Parfum specifically. The incense note is extremely strong. It overpowers. It doesn't overpower, but it's the dominant note in the entire perfume. When you first put it on, you get these citrus notes, kind of bergamot and orange mostly, and then those kind of trickle away and meld into this. The floral notes make an appearance, some rose, some ylang ylang. But then the base notes are really the real players of Shalimar. They mainly consist of amber, musk, a bit of civet, and then of course the incense note. And the incense note really, it smells authentic. It smells like you've got some sort of resin that you're burning, and that real smokiness. That's what you get with the Shalimar Eau de Parfum. I believe the Eau de Toilette smells differently. I think it's more mild. I don't really know what it smells like because I haven't had the chance to smell it myself, but the Eau de Parfum which I have is definitely very smoky. I imagine, because there's a stronger version, there's the extrait version, I imagine that would smell even smokier, but the one that I have, very incensey, very authentic. If you're looking for something that smells like real incense, it's Shalimar. So, and I like that because it makes it a very mysterious scent, very kind of seductive sort of scent. So that makes it really good for the evenings, very good for cold weather. You could wear it during the daytime. I wouldn't recommend it for hot weather because it's pretty heavy. It might get too heavy if it's 90 degrees outside. So the next one, which I've discovered recently, is actually very similar, is Taboo. This is by Dana. This came out in 1932, so it's also old, like Shalimar. So the interesting thing about Taboo, it's not quite as luxurious as Shalimar, but it is definitely. As soon as I put it on, I thought this is exactly what incense smells like. So it's very authentic, much like Shalimar, in kind of like bottling this true smokiness. And it does that, but it also mixes those notes with civet, amber, musk, oak moss, patchouli, and it's a very, very strong fragrance. It's probably the same strength as Shalimar, but there are some notes that are more pronounced. It's not as smooth as Shalimar. Shalimar kind of makes you think of this dream, this delightfully smoky evening. Taboo is more intense. Taboo still has that incense, but it has these like sharp kind of cloves and animalistic notes, especially the civet. So this is like a hardcore fragrance. So anyone who enjoys really animalistic, smoky, really heavy, intense perfumes, Taboo is a really good choice. Of course, because it is so intense, I'm sure large groups of people aren't fans of it, but it is still, if you want to make a statement, if you're going out to the club or, going out for the evening, Taboo, will definitely get people's attention. Very unique. It's a staple of the past. It was very popular. back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And it still definitely holds its own today as a very incensey, resinous fragrance. So that's a good choice. Next one is in a similar fragrance family, but different. This is one of my favorite fragrances. This is Youth Dew by Este Lauder, which came out in 1953. You could see a pattern that most of these very smoky perfumes are old, several decades old. So this is also a spicy, smoky perfume, but it's a bit smoother. It's a bit smoother compared to Shalimar or Taboo. It has a lot of notes. It has the list it has is very long. Rose, cinnamon, cloves, aldehydes, narcissus, lavender, a bunch of stuff. But the base notes are really where it's at. It's mainly incense, amber, vetiver, vanilla, and musk for the most part. And it is a strong fragrance, not as strong as Taboo, but strong, definitely pronounced. And the incense note is a bit more toned down compared to Shalimar or Taboo. It's definitely, it takes more time for the incense note to develop, but it's still, you could still get that incense note, that there's still that resinous, something is burning sort of thing. And it's better for those who maybe want something more toned down, something a bit smoother. And the smoky note really balances well with the cinnamon, the cloves, the spice notes. So it's more elegant. It's not as hardcore. It's more sophisticated. So the next one that I have here is also another classic. This is Obsession by Klein. I'm sure most people are familiar with this. This came out in the 80s. I want to say 1984, but I can't remember exactly. So this was created to be primarily an animalistic fragrance, but it does have incense notes. So the incense notes are mixed also with amber, some vanilla, musk, vetiver, and civet. The civet obviously is where the animalistic notes come from. Again, this is the incense note for Obsession is kind of on the same level as Youth Dew. So when you first put it on, you're not going to immediately say, "Oh, that's incense. That's like someone's burning frankincense or something." You won't get that right away with Obsession as you would with Shalimar or Taboo. But it does become more prominent the longer you wear it. The incense note just becomes more developed. And it's more of a smoother incense note because, like I said, it's primarily an animalistic fragrance. So it's still very good. It's a very well-rounded, very warm perfume. And it was very popular when it came out in the 80s. It's still popular today. Very pleasant. A bit more feminine than some of the others. Like, I would say it's more stereotypically feminine compared to Taboo or even Shalimar. So it's pretty similar to Youth Dew, except just, with that extra civet note. So the next one, or the last one, that I have on my list here is Coco by Chanel. So the thing about this is technically it doesn't have an official incense note, but I would argue that it still smells extremely incensey. It could just be maybe because it's mainly a spicy fragrance, similar to the rest of these. It has cloves, it has coriander, tonka bean, sandalwood, amber, civet, and apopanax, along with some vanilla. So very similar to these, without the official incense note. But there's still a very kind of smoky, tingly sort of note. I imagine it probably comes from the mix of the amber, the sandalwood, apopanax, all that. So this is, I suppose, the least incense perfume on this list. But it's still, if you want something a bit lighter and not as heavy, Coco is probably the best bet because it also has some really nice florals rose, orange blossom, mimosa, and clover for the most part. And it also has peach and mandarin orange, so that kind of lightens it up a bit, but it's still a very nice, warm, smoky, light smoky fragrance. And is very, very well balanced perfume. So those are the perfumes that I have on this list for incensey perfumes. If you have any recommendations for smoky or incensey perfumes, you can leave those down in the comments below. If you like the video, leave a like, maybe subscribe, and I make videos throughout the week, so stick around for those.